Hello, my name is Hannah. Welcome to my booktube. So I am going to be sharing with you my March reading wrap up and my April hopeful TBR. If you have been on this channel before, then you might have gathered I am a little bit type B and I don't typically stick to a plan. I definitely don't really stick to a TBR, especially like a pre-planned TBR. So I'm going to try with every 2% of my brain power to stick to my April TBR. Okay? Oy, 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 look at this. That is insane. I don't remember the last time I had such a good reading month. March was a really good reading month for me. I don't know what was going on, but I just was pumping out the books, like reading. I don't know. So I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I read 11 books in March. One of them was on my Kindle, and then the rest were all physical copies. So I'll talk about the one on my Kindle first so that we can kind of just get her out of the way. Also, because I am very scatterbrained at times, I literally wrote sticky notes in my books to give myself talking points in this video, because otherwise it would just be chaotic rambling and no one is here for that. So the first book I want to talk about I read on my Kindle, and that was The Body in the Bookstore. This was a cozy mystery, and it was the first cozy mystery that I have read. So I didn't know what to expect. I really had fun with it. It was very, very comforting, surprisingly. It was such a vibe. The way that the author wrote the small town and described it, it really gave Gilmore Girls-esque vibes. So I enjoyed that tremendously. It's about a woman who works at a bookstore, and it's kind of tanking. So she's trying to come up with ideas to save the bookstore. And she settles on doing a book festival for the whole town, which would help all of the businesses in that town, not just the bookstore. So during this said festival, there is a murder that takes place in the bookstore, and things transpire from there, and it basically becomes a whodunit murder cozy mystery. I gave this 3.5 stars, which might not sound like a lot, but for being my first cozy mystery, I don't really have an idea of the way I want to rate those yet. So I feel like that was fair. The book was really well paced. It was super well written. I enjoyed the entire atmosphere of it, the food, the way the town was described, the characters. Some of them were likable, some of them were not. Our main character was likable, so that was really what mattered most. Then I want to talk about the books that I actually put in a reading vlog, which you will have seen either right before this or right after this. I read 3 books from Fable book clubs, and I put them in a reading vlog, so I talk about them more through there. I keep bumping into my beautiful Swiss cheese. I am so sorry. I do need a taller thing for you because you're a little floppy. The first book I read in that vlog was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I gave this 3.75 stars, and I did sort of annotate some of it. So this is about a girl who calls into a late night talk show about romance and relationships, and she is basically trying to help her mom find love. And so our male main character is the one that runs this talk show, and he essentially brings her onto the show and starts getting to know her, and you can probably guess what happens from there. So this was cute. This was a better B.K. Borison book, in my opinion. I gave this 3.75 stars, and I enjoyed reading it. I will say it felt a little bit drawn out in the middle. I do think it fell a little bit flat. I feel like it could have wrapped up a bit quicker, and it might have been just a better rating if that was the case. I really loved the daughter, Maya. I thought she was so spunky and just a fun character. I really enjoyed the female main character. The male main character, he was okay. I feel like he was a little bit toxic, a little bit of push and pull, I want you, let's do this, and then let me back off. I have commitment issues, or I have trauma, or whatever his reasoning. So that happened a few times, and I didn't love that. But they ended up, doing their thing and figuring it out. So I thought it was cute. It had some funny moments. I really loved the ex-husband of the main character. I thought he was so spicy, and I enjoyed him. Yeah, overall, I thought this was a decent read. I do think it was a little overhyped, but it was still fun to read. So 3.75 on this guy. And then in that same vlog, I read The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. Oh my God, you guys. This book, it was this close to being 5 stars. I gave it 4.75. This is about a group of women that are basically competing to marry a prince who is the son of a fairy queen, and this fairy is not nice. She's super freaking evil. And the son has a stepbrother, and the stepbrother, oh my God, the twist at the end involving the stepbrother, crazy. I had so much fun interacting on the Fable book club with this one. Everybody was chatting in the club, and it was just like really great. So I don't want to spoil anything or give anything away. It did leave off on a cliffhanger, so there will be a second book. I really just enjoyed the bargains that the townspeople would make with the Fae Queen in order to like get something that they really wanted. And some of the bargains were so silly. Like one of them was a girl sacrificed turning left in order to have nice teeth, I think it was. So she could never make a left turn. She always had to go right, which I just thought was so silly. Some people would lose a limb or a appendage in order to have nice hair. Like some of the things were just silly. It felt a little bit like if you took Hunger Games, Love Island, and Bridgerton and put it all together into a novel with magic. That's how this felt, and I was eating it up. I felt like the pacing was a little bit off towards the end. It felt a little bit rushed, a little bit like thrown at us, almost like the author had to quickly wrap things up in order to jump into the next book. So the pacing was just a smidge off. But aside from that, I thought it was amazing. I loved all the different POVs that we got. It was super easy to follow. If you have not tried fantasy romance yet and you don't know where to start, this is a great starting place. Okay, and then the last book that I read in that reading vlog, Unwanted by Mia Sheridan. Again, I annotated this. I had a lot of fun reading this. It was sad, it was emotional, it was on the edge of your seat. It's essentially a murder mystery romance. So we have our female main character who is a wilderness guide, and then we have our male main character who lived out in the wilderness since 8 years old, completely uncivilized for the most part, very smart individual though. And a murder happens out in these woods. So the sheriff uses our female main character's help to navigate the woods and, help with the investigation a little bit. And in all of that, our female main character ends up meeting the male main character, and things go from there. They are solving a murder, actually several murders. And on top of that, they are falling in love, of course. So Mia Sheridan is great at writing very emotional love stories with a lot of depth to them. It's not just a like fluffy contemporary romance. There is much more into it than that. I will say 500 pages almost is a little bit excessive. That is one of the downfalls of this book, is that I thought it was a little too long. So I gave this one a 4.5 star. It wasn't a 5 star because, like I said, the length of it was just too much. So I really enjoyed the mystery aspects to this and following along with the investigations. I loved the tension and the angst between the two main characters and the way that the buildup happened and the way that the book really brought you a perspective on how humans at our core, how we mate. If you take away the modern dating society, if you take away like dating apps and just like falling into bed with someone fast and lust, if you take all that out, humans at their core have a very unique way of finding their mates, their partners. And the book explained that, and I thought that was really cool because that's how our male main character found Harper, our female main character, as his mate. So I don't know, it kind of showed like the animalistic side of humans when you take away all of the frivolous things that are not necessary. When you put someone in a situation where it's purely survival and you use what you have and you figure shit out and you are just survival mode completely, it really shows you the trials that we would go through in that situation, and the way that our instincts just take over. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, I gave this a 4.5 star. I did another reading vlog earlier in the month, and I honestly don't even remember what books were in it, so I'm just going to go through these. We have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave this 4.25 stars. This was not my favorite Taylor book, but this one was still fun to read. It was very interesting. I did find myself stuck in the pages. So it is about our female main character, Monique, who is a journalist essentially, and she is chosen by Evelyn Hugo specifically to write Evelyn's tell-all biography type of a deal. And Monique agrees, but she's wondering, why me? Like, why can nobody else write this for you? Why does it have to be me? And Evelyn is like, you need to write it all. And then at the end, you'll find out why. The ending and the twist and the reason why Evelyn chose Monique blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, that is absolutely heartbreaking. So that was not something I saw coming. In general, this is just a nice general fiction novel. I thought it was really interesting, some of the points that were made. It does revolve around queerness, and in this day and age, this I believe takes place in the 80s, how being a lesbian was not a thing back then. Like, even being gay, it didn't matter. Like, you just were not allowed to show that, and people hid it, especially people in high up positions like actors and actresses. And so this book was really interesting, showing that side of things and showing what Evelyn had to, and even not just Evelyn, but some of the other characters in this book as well, showing what they had to sort of endure and go through in order to hide their queerness from the public eye. So I thought it was just very interesting. And then added into the aspect is the little plot twist at the end with Monique and, you know, that whole thing. So this, again, was a 4.25. My 5-star. Oh, I am being brought back to how immersive this was. A Court of Mist and Fury by SJM. You guys, this took me a month to read. It is like, how many pages? It is like 630 pages. It took me a while to read, but this was 5 stars. It was insanity. Things went crazy. The plot twists, the action, the way that Fairy and Tamlin and Reese, I always call him Rise, like Rise bread, Reese. The way that everything unfolded at the end, I was like, holy F, this is wild. Like, very, very immersive. So good. This was even better than the first book, and I thought the first book was really, really good. I'm not going to talk about this because I'm sure at this point 99% of you have read this series, but I can't stand Tamlin, and I just can't wait to see Tamlin get his. That's all. Coffee break. All right, I read a horror, which is so random, reading a horror in the middle of March, but I read Baby Teeth by Zoe Stage. This book was so weird in one of the best ways, though. So it is about this family, and this mother and her daughter are not cool. Like, her daughter is a-hole. And I feel bad saying that about a cute little 7-year-old baby girl, but holy moly, the things that she would do to her mother, like the evil little pranks and manipulation that she would do against her mom, had me gasping. Like, if my child ever pulled some shit like that. So this manipulative little girl is basically turning against her mom, and she thinks her mom hates her, and the mom thinks that her daughter hates her in return, and the mother is just trying to get a grip on the situation and get her daughter help without feeling resentment. And the father is completely in the dark about it. He's so useless. It's not even funny. He's just like, our daughter's perfect. Da 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 da. And the wife is like, no, she's not. She literally made me walk on thumbtacks. Plotted an entire thing and I walked on thumbtacks. Lit me on fire. Like, how do you deny that at that point, that your child is not a psychopath? So I gave this. I don't know why I'm laughing, because it was so diabolical. And honestly, I think that's why I'm laughing, because it was just so diabolical. I gave this a 3.75. It was weird. It gave me the heebie-jeebies. It made me angry at some points, because as a parent, I just kept thinking, like, if my children ever did this, I can't even imagine how I'd feel, how I'd react, how I'd think, like, what would I do? And in the end, I think that the parents chose the right thing for their child, because at that point it was like, what else can you do? Like, she is a danger. Okay. I just hated the little girl. I'm sorry to say it. I couldn't stand her. It was a well-written character, but I hated her character, if that makes sense. And the husband was just super useless. And I felt like he could have just been eliminated from the storyline, because he sucked. So that's that. 3.75. King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This is the first book in what will be a series. This is an Adrian and Isolde reimagining fantasy romance type of a deal. I don't really know them. I don't know Greek mythology like that. I don't know Adrian and Isolde, but I still enjoyed this story. And I thought that there was so many sweet moments. And the way that Adrian was like pining after Isolde was amazing. This is about Isolde and Adrian, and he is a vampire king and she is a princess, and they essentially are married, but it's a marriage of convenience, basically, except he actually really loves her, and he is the absolute most sweet man ever. Like, he's very much touch her and you die, but towards her, he is so adorable, and just the things he says to her and the way he literally makes sure that she is heard. And I think that that is huge. And he's just got her back 100%. And honestly, she is the same way towards him, but she's a little bit slower towards that arc, I would say. Like, she's not as head over heels insta love towards him as he is her. But I thought this was so fun to read. It was very fast paced. It is a well-written story, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. So I do want to continue the series. I do have the second book, so we will be continuing. I read Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. First of all, this is super small. This was just a strange book. I have not liked anything that M.L. Rio has written so far. If We Were Villains, I DNF'd it. And this one, the only reason it didn't get DNF'd is because it's only literally 70 pages, 100 pages. So this is about a group of kids that are solving a mystery. But it is a environmental mystery. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it has like dark vibes, dark gothic vibes. It was sort of confusing at first. It was a little bit weird to put together because there was absolutely zero story building whatsoever because it's so short, and that is why it only got 2.5 stars from me. I didn't really find myself caring about the characters. I was curious about why a man was in the graveyard doing what he was doing, but aside from that, I really didn't care. So this got a 2.5 star. It was a little bit forgettable, if I'm being honest. We're almost done. 2 more books. I read The Inmate by Frida McOw. Frida McFadden. If you don't know, Frida McFadden is a a thriller writer. So she loves to throw in her plot twists at the end, literally the last page sometimes. And I think that that is so fun. I enjoy it. So this is about a woman who is a nurse practitioner at a prison, and one of the inmates is someone that she had a relationship with in high school, and he went to jail for murder that he may or may not have committed. I was very intrigued. I was all in. I read this in one sitting. I wanted to know what the heck was going on, what happened. It wasn't my favorite Frida book that I've read, but it was pretty good. I gave this 3.5 stars. The twists were pretty good. However, I did guess half of it. a little bit predictable, some of those twists, but for the most part, they were still fun to read. They were still, interesting, and some of them did still get me. So that's the reason it wasn't like a lower rating. It was just a super easy, fast-paced thriller. Great to read if you want to avoid or get out of a reading slump, of course. The last book I read this month is 𝐲𝐡's 𝐓𝐴 by H.D. Carlton. This was my least favorite H.D. Carlton book that I've read. I almost said that I've written. Girl, no. I could never write a book. I'm just not smart enough to do that. No. My ADHD, that book would get 0 stars. I'm confident in that, and it's okay. I can make fun of myself in that scenario. So no, I didn't write this. H.D. Carlton wrote this, and she didn't do that good of a job with it. This is about Sybil, and we read a little bit about Sybil in the Cat and Mouse duo, if you read that. I hated Sybil in the duets. I hated Sybil in this story. She's absolutely off her rocker. She was next level, dude. Next level. I don't want to give anything away, but that bitch was crazy. It was almost like a why choose, I think, because she was banging all of her henchmen, and the spicy scenes, I'll be honest, I enjoyed them, okay? The spicy scenes were hot, but everything else about the story was not great. And there was definitely some triggers in here too, with SA and trafficking, that sort of a thing. But that's kind of H.D. Carlton's forte. That's like what she writes about in her dark romances. So that wasn't a surprise to me. And I kind of had an idea that's what it would be going into it, even though I went in blind. I gave this a 3.5 star. Honestly, I'm going to change that to a 3.25. I feel like that fits better. And this was my least favorite book she wrote, like I said. So, also there is a ton of body horror. Just super grotesque things that were appalling. They were appalling. So just, keep that in mind when you're going into it. So yeah, that's that. That's everything I read in March. Now I'm going to pull a couple books that I want to read in April, and we'll see if I actually do it. Okay, so I have pulled April's hopefuls, and I can promise you I will not read all of these, and I might not even read these specific ones either. I am going to try though. So I'm going to start off with the one that I definitely am not going to finish this in the month of April. Hopefully I can finish it mid-May, just based on how long it took me to read book 2. So A Court of Wings and Ruin by SJM. I'm excited to start this, and I really, really hope I read through this quicker than I read through book 2. But these books are so long, and honestly, I need palate cleansers in between certain chapters of these books. Sometimes I have to stop and just pull a easy romance or an easy thriller and then jump back into this, because it is a lot, but it is such a good story. So I hope I finish this quickly. And that's one of the books that I hope to start in April. Always Mine by Laura Pavlov. This is a series. It's the Honey Mountain series. I think it's a small town best friends to lovers romance. It's a contemporary romance. I don't know anything else about it other than that. It looks very spring vibes though. We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. I simply need to read more of my horror books because I have so many, and I don't know. I just feel like I need to do better with that category, so I need to read more. I don't know what this is about. I just know that it's horror. Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. Again, no clue what this is about. I don't know if this is a fantasy, a romance, or both. I just know it's a YA, and I know that it is going to be fairly easy for me to read because YA always is, and it's got mixed media and illustrations in it, so I feel like this would be really fun. I do want to read more thriller too. So The Marriage by K.L. Slater. This is a typical domestic thriller. It is about this woman's son who was murdered, and she basically starts to hunt down the man who killed her son, and I'm curious who that was. It says the most unputdownable psychological thriller you'll read this year. Another horror is The Bonus Room by Ben Winters. These people buy this house for super cheap, and there is a room upstairs, the attic, I believe, that is locked, and there's like something going on in there. That's all I know. Stolen Air by Sophie Lark, book 2 in the Brutal Birthright series. I need to finish this series so that I can move on to Kingmakers. Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I was told that this book is amazing if it finds you at the right time. And I feel like right now is the right time for this. I had this before and I actually sold it. And then a year later now, I bought it again because I don't know why. Like, I feel like the book found me at the right time. So I want to read this pretty much immediately. The Memory Library by Kate Story. It says that it is a heartwarming novel about hope, friendship, and second chances. And I thought it sounded really sweet. I didn't read the entire back of it. I just read some of it. I think there's going to be a lot of found family in this, and I like found family. A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. I've heard great things about this. I just hate the edition that I have. I hate the man on the cover. Like, I don't like him. Nope. No. So, about a meet cute, a dating app, I think, contemporary spicy romance. And then the last book that I hope to read this month is The Serpent and the Wolf. I started this last month. I even annotated part of it. And then I put it down because I started reading / finishing the second book in the 𝐸𝐴𝐶 series. And it was just too much fantasy in 1 month for me after reading that second book. So I put this one down. I think I got like 80 pages in. Yeah, I got pretty far in. So I want to finish it this month. I might fully reread it, or I might just pick up where I left off. It totally depends on what I remember and what I can recall from it. But this is a newer fantasy romance release, and it is going to be a duology, I think. Yep, and it is enemies to lovers. So that's that. This was a really long video. Oh my God. I'm going to edit it now and hopefully get it up by February. We're not in February, Hannah. Stop saying that. If only you guys knew how many times I edited out saying February in this video. Okay, bye. I'll see you in my next video.